We're here with Speed to Sear, the legend. The national treasure is what people have said. One has said.
Yeah. A lot of people have liked the last two podcasts, so we are back for the third one with Speed. We've gotten really good reviews. They love your stories.
Yeah, you bring some grit back into some stories. It's nice hearing them. So I think we left off. We were talking about guide school. You were just starting the businesses with the guide school. You guys were starting to run those with Jerry. We don't do those. I can kind of go over like what we do. We do an apprenticeship, and we let guys come on. We kind of like hand pick them. They shadow like the first year. They kind of see if they can fit into the hunting world and if the guides like them and how much time you're going to put into them. And then the second year they kind of shadow the guides, like they go out and just kind of like our assistant guides, and then we roll them in. Mm-hmm. Like Seth did that, but we only hunted together one time, right? Seth's with us today also.
So we do it a lot different now than what you did. Because you guys, how many people did you run through the guide schools?
Well, we used to try to run at least 16 students at a time, and we tried to do at least 3 classes a summer, And I really enjoyed them, and the reason I really enjoyed them was the time. The guys were fun and interesting and a lot of different things, and they brought a lot of different stories for me to listen to, and I really enjoyed that. But what I really liked about it was I spent so much time in the woods, and I was scouting all summer long. I mean, I'd take them in the woods, and we were working different subjects, but I was scouting all the time. Now, Nick was doing the horse part, and so I would take 8 students from me, and he would have 8 students each day. And so I start with the breakfast thing. We had the wall tent camp because a lot of the students that we were sending going into areas, they might not even be hunting camps, but they would be doing in a wall tent type scenario. So they start off with a wall tent camp. They would set the wall tents up the first day of school, and they get them all set up and everything like that, and then dig the outhouse and set that all up, and just stuff like that. But when we started going, then we'd go in. I would come in the morning, work the breakfast crew, and they would rotate, being camp cooks, camp jacks, wranglers, guides, etc., etc. And then when we would get through with breakfast, and then the guys would wrangle the stock, we're going to go work with Nick, and then the ones 8 with me would jump into a Suburban or a van, and we'd take off. And we'd go to the mountains, and we might go goat hunting, and so we'd go to a goat area, and we'd climb up, and we'd talk about it, and they all had notes on it to study too about, when a good time, how you could read a goat, et cetera, et cetera. And then maybe we'd go to sheep country the next day and do the same thing. And maybe go to moose, to try to find moose and do the same thing. But what I really liked about it was we'd have a 3-day hike, and we'd go into this different country each time. We'd end up in some mountain lake or something, and then we'd sit around the fire at night and we'd talk about calling elk and stuff like this, and tracking mule deer. And we would do that. We'd get up and we would spot mule deer and stuff. So there were a lot of mule deer around them days. We'd spot mule deer, and then I would send one guy out as a guide and one guy as a client, and they would try to stalk on that mule deer, and each bunch would take turns doing this, and so they really enjoyed that. I enjoyed it, being out there and stuff and working it. We also had a lot of survival skills.
Yeah.
So I'd have fire drills, and they had to make a fire in 5 minutes, and they couldn't use anything out of their pack. They could use a lighter, and that was it. They didn't have to do the bow drill or anything like that. And I always liked to do it when it was raining. And so we'd be walking along, I'd just holler, fire drill. and off they go, and they'd run like a booger, and they'd try to get a fire. First of all, there would be instruction. We'd talk about it. We'd do this fire, making fires in the woods, how important a fire was, in a situation, especially if you had a client hurt or something like this, or just a survival type thing, And so anyway, and they'd run around and they would find the pitch, and they would find this and that, and then look for the dry wood, and they get the dead limbs underneath the trees and stuff like that, and build fires. And I would watch them, and hopefully they'd all get it done in 5 minutes. Sometimes it would take them longer, but it really gave them the skill of doing. But yet, I also taught them, if you got a day in your day pack, like I like old inner tube, and I would cut slices of it, and I would stick it in a Ziploc bag, and I would put it in my pack, and then I would get pieces of like wood, like trim ends or something like that, had a lot of pitch in it, and I would saw that real small and fine, and I would put it in a Ziploc bag. That was really good fire starter. Now, they learned how to do it if they didn't have it, but then I taught them how to have it in your day pack in case you had to build a fire. And there's a lot of stuff you can buy too, and stuff like that too. But this here's stuff that you could just build yourself, And so I enjoyed that.
I've always had a little collection of pine pitch.
Oh, yeah.
Used to. We don't anymore. We have those little packets and pyro putty and all kinds of good stuff you can buy.
Yeah.
So how long did it take whenever you would get them all together? How long would it take you to figure out who was going to make it and who probably wasn't going to make it?
5 minutes.
Yeah. So sometimes they would surprise you. Like I had guide school students, and so we're going up towards Ridge, and that's where we're going to go look for goats, And so we're on the way. And so all of a sudden this guy says, Speed, I can't make it. And I just looked at what he's talking about. He said, I can't make it. I can't be a guide. And I just looked at him. I said, well, what do you mean you can't make it? I said, we just slow down a little bit, or whatever, And, I can't make it. It surprised me because he was all big deal before, and I thought, and it surprised me when he did it. But a lot of them, you can, they had to have certain things in their day pack all the time. And I told them what they had to carry. They had a list, everything else. This one kid, he thought he didn't have to do that, and he stuffed it with a pillow, and so it looked like it was full, and stuff like that. So we're on the way to the lake. So one of the guide school students says, so-and-so, he's got a pillow in his pack. I says, he does, huh? Okay. And so we get up to the lake, and every once in a while I'd say, okay, we're going to spend the night. So you got to live off of what's in your day pack. You build a shelter, you got a tarp, you build a shelter thing, and you do this and that, and you got stuff to fire, and you have some goodies in your pack, and you might have some ramen in there, stuff like this, that I told them about they should have in their first aid stuff and all this kind of stuff, And so, but basically the fire starter and all that stuff is important. Now, they didn't have to do the fire drill on this one, They could do it with the other stuff and stuff like that. So I gets up there and I says, I guess we'll just spend the night. And this kid, he looks at me and he says, are you serious? I says, yeah, why? He says, well, I says, all I got's a pillow.
Well, your neck won't hurt in the morning.
I says, is that right? I said, well, I don't want you to die up here, so we'll fill your pack full of rocks. So we filled his pack full of rocks, and he had to carry that thing the rest of the day. Oh, after that, he always had everything he needed in his day pack.
So that bit me also. I put a tarp in mine, and I about froze to death the one night we stayed because they kind of did that same thing even though you weren't there. They rolled off of everything that you would do, and how you guys would drop them off and make them spend the night by themselves and traverse out.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were going on another scouting mission, and I wasn't carrying everything in my backpack neither. So I didn't have a sleeping bag. I only had a tarp. I about froze to death.
Well, I wasn't that mean. I actually went back out and But I told him, you better have all your stuff because I'm going to do this again.
Yeah.
And so next time I did it, and we did stay the night. He had everything. Everybody had everything that they needed. But it's, I got used to wearing a day pack 40 pounds all the time.
Look, it's had the 40-pound day pack.
Like you hear the dogs treed, and they're up the hill, and so you don't. Oh, I just go to the tree, and so you head up to the tree, and all of a sudden the lion jumps and dogs take off and they go clear over into the next drainage and over there. So you're getting close again. Lion jumps again, and they go again. Pretty soon you're about a mile away from your truck. And you ain't got nothing. You don't have a flashlight. You don't have nothing you need. Always take your day pack.
Yep.
Always take your handgun. Always take your rifle, whatever you got. Always take everything that you need. Every tree I went to, I took my 30-30. Had an old Model 94. I still got it. And I don't know how many bears I've shot with or lions or anything else, but I always had it. And it always went. I always have a 357 Magnum. I always carried when I was guiding with clients. I didn't pack my rifle in. But if I was dog hunting, I always took my 30-30 because I always went to trees a lot of times by myself, so that was important.
Yeah, all I can say is you would humble all of us in today's hunting because the packs you can get down to a day pack, 20 pounds that's about right there what you need to be. So if they cut half the weight off of you, you would have hiked around like a machine.
What was the span of the guide school, the time span?
We started at about an hour before daylight. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that too, but how many months?
It was 4-week courses.
Okay.
Yeah, but we went from before daylight when I get there for start the breakfast thing going, and then we'd go all thing and we'd be going till 9-10 o'clock at night.
In the summer.
Yeah, all week.
Were you strategically trying to break them down on sleep and working a little bit?
No, we was trying to teach them for one thing that when you're a guide, you're going to have to run without sleep a lot of times.
Yeah.
Especially archery season.
Absolutely.
It's what it was. And then I didn't do the night shift cooking because then I went home. Then George or Nick or somebody else would be taking care of that part because I didn't need to know what I already knew what it entailed.
You didn't need to cook on the Dutch oven.
But I took the breakfast crew all the time and get them started there. And so that was my place. And on the weekends, we had projects we did on Saturdays, but then I would send them on a compass course, map and compass course. And they'd go in 2-man crews. And they would send out, like we'd take and drop one off here, and they all would end up in, let's say, they all come from the backside over by Libby or whatever, and they'd have to do a compass course to a certain spot, and then there would be a rig waiting for you with a guide to pick you up. That was on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, and we always did that about the third week. I wasn't involved in that. I was there at turning them out on Saturday, but I didn't pick them up because I was going to church and stuff. So I was a little spoiled as a head guide. But
they let you have pick of the litter every week.
Yeah, and we caped out heads. We got all them heads from the meat place there in
Clark Fork meat.
No, yeah, Clark Fork meat. And they would save the heads, and then we'd have them skin them all out and cape them, and skin the heads out, turn the lip, turn the ears, all that kind of stuff, all that stuff that needed to be done. If sometimes it depended on the outfit. Some outfits don't want you to do anything. Like Boss's outfit, he don't want you to even cape them out.
That's because it's embarrassing when the guys do a real bad job.
Yeah.
It is.
It is, but like I say, we worked with them, and that was a pretty long day. We'd have the whole class there. Then we did horseshoeing classes. We had a horseshoe class with the whole everybody would be there. And then we had a horseshoe, which was Ahots. He'd come in,
Yeah.
and he was a professional horseshoer, and we'd work with him on shoeing horses, and then we'd work with the stock a lot about giving them their shots and floating their teeth and all kinds of stuff for the stock. Then we did a lot of manning and stuff and pulling and putting packs on the horses with all of our different hitches, a diamond hitch, and stuff like that. So there was a lot of horse stuff too with the school, plus all the stuff. You had camp jacks that would have to. We'd go out, and they would run a chainsaw and cut down trees, dead trees. One year, Jerry wanted him to cut wood for the lodge. And did you do that?
I cut all summer for the pay for my apprenticeship.
Okay, well, that's what he wanted the guide school to do. And I balked it right away. I said, no.
Oh, yeah.
I said, these people don't pay $2,500 to come out here and work for you.
I filled that red 16-foot trailer, pulled it out in front of where he always split it, and we would split it every day.
But what we would do, we would fill up that trailer, or half full or whatever we figured we need at camp. Then we'd take it over across the road is where the camp would be. And we would take, and they would drop all them big, what were they, 4 foot something or 5 foot, and down there. Then we had these cross things that they had made, and they would put them up on them, and then they would use the cross cut because they might be in an area where you can't use chainsaws. And they would cut them with their wood with a cross cut, and then they would split it all. And then they would have that because we did a lot of Dutch oven cooking, and stuff like that. So they would have that, and that's Camp Jack's job, would take care of all that, and take care of the tents and do all that kind of stuff.
Cut that finer kindling, that way you can get the hot coals quick.
Yeah. And so all them jobs rotated. Like I had this list of names, and they just rotate around. Everybody ended up doing the jobs, and then they had the stock over across the road. And then when we would leave, then Nick would have them fill up and put the manny stuff up and take them back across the road and get back over to the corrals over there. They'd work with the horses and the mules and doing all kinds of different stuff, packing and all that stuff. And then we'd go them out. And like I say, I loved it because we'd go into areas where I could check out wallows, and I could show them how to stalk and stuff like that and track.
When you were scouting, were you always checking areas that you were familiar with, or did you check a lot of new areas while you were with the student?
Actually, I would work new areas. Like I guided Prospect a lot and Thompson River a lot. And no other of Jerry's guides did, but I did. I'd hunt all the way in there. And then Nick would bring all my stuff up, and there was a big spring up there on top. And I would come into that spring, and that's where me and the clients would stay for 3 days, because we could stay for 3 days. Did very well. And then I would come back out. If I would look for new areas to check out too, just to check it out.
Within proximity of that camp?
Yeah. In what Jerry had, his areas that he was able,
his unit.
His units that he was able to. Because we had Prospect Creek, Thompson River, we had all this.
It's monsters.
And we could go clear up to almost Troy, Cabin Creek, stuff like that. We had that. And so a lot of like them areas I would go. I stayed out of, I had a good friend that was guiding for boss Kelvin Fitchett, and I knew he was guiding a lot of that there around Elk Creek. I wouldn't go into Elk Creek, and I wouldn't go into anything around that area, because I just didn't want to bump into him, And,
So that's my border with our buddy Rob, too. I'm the same.
You do the same?
Exactly the same.
None of that's changed then. That's good to know.
Yeah, I would do anything to dive into some of them cuts up there behind the lodge, but can't do it.
Yeah.
I told him the one day I went over lion hunting with him, I was like, I'm deep behind enemy territory. I was like, I haven't been over here. It's kind of neat, though. It's nice to be respectful, everybody.
Yeah. I never really had to get out of Thompson River. Like I say, I owned that for so long, more or less. And that was good, so it was nice.
Why do you think you were the only one hunting that area mostly?
Because there was never no more car tracks or anything else. There was nobody up there.
Why do you think that was?
Because I covered the whole thing.
No, like, why weren't anybody else, you think, in that good hunting?
Well, there wasn't that many hunters for Howman and stuff like that.
You
Okay.
had resources, too. They had a packer that lived at the lodge that was on call with a truck, trailer, and horses like Johnny on the spot. Like, if you called Nick, he was coming.
Yep. And I would meet him. I would have it ready. Nick never get off his horse. And he would come in. I'd have to meet him on a trail or something.
Yeah.
So I would designate that when I call in. And then I would go down and then take him back up to where it was. And then we'd load it up. And then if there was still a lot of daylight left, I would just let Nick go out. But if I didn't, well, then me and the client would follow Nick out, as he would go. And if something happened, which he had a hard time getting off his horse. So
Yeah, they put the ribbons. Like, protocol was ribbons. Head height for him, so as high as you could reach up into the tree. That way he could see it off the back of his horse easy.
one time Nick and me went into it's 4 Lakes, and I'd go up Thompson River, and then you go to 4 Lakes up there, and we was back in there. This guy wanted to really get a really nice big mule deer buck, and so then Jerry said, "Well, you're gonna camp in there and take the horses in there." And Jerry knew that I didn't like hunting off the horses anyway. So anyway, he says, "Why don't you take Nick with you?" Because I was the only guide that week, hunting. We went in there, and we hunted out of there quite a bit. So I told Nick, "You just take your time and get the horses loaded up and whatever, and we'll be up." And me and the client, we were climbing up there, and it was really cold that morning, and kind of sleety, And me and the client were walking real slow, but we're nice and warm, we're all dressed for it and everything. Nick comes up there. He is shaking in the saddle. And I'll never forget that. He says, "I think I'm going to freeze to death." I said, "Why are you on that horse?" I said, "Get off the horse." He got off the horse. We built a big fire. But I think the guy would have froze to death before he got off the horse. I told him, "Why didn't you get off the horse and start walking, Oh, yeah, okay.
No, that never even crossed Nick's mind. To walk.
I had his mules blow up one time with the elk on the back, and he's sitting on the horse and speed, get him. I run down the hill and grab him, he wouldn't get off his horse.
Do you remember any of the mules' names? You didn't happen to have the Sackett brothers around, did you, when you were there?
No.
Orrin, Tyrell.
Yeah. Yes. And then the black one, what was his name? He was hard to catch.
Yeah, and I got a great story. I can back us up to where you said that they, where the school was across in the 40 acres. Mm-hmm. Well, they turned the stock loose, and my friend and I that attended guide school, we did a little bit with horses all growing up, so they had us go catch them. I roped that stupid mule, and that thing dragged me down through the woods, and I was so nervous they were going to throw us out because we had that thing roped, and Jerry didn't like roping the animals, and that mule was running around that 40 acres like a knucklehead with that lasso over him.
What was his name?
I'll come up with his name here in just a little bit. Let's go.
Well, I could catch him, but I'd walk out there, and he'd look at me, and I'd look at him. I says, "I ain't going to give up. You stand still." And he just kind of twitched his ears, and I'd walk up real slow to him. I said, "You better not move." And I could catch him. But I told Jerry, because nobody else catch him, what we need to do is put the halter on him and get a piece of metal and have a rope. So every time he starts running away, he's banging into his shins. I said, pretty soon his front legs are going to get sore, and he's going to quit running away from people. But Jerry said, "Oh, we can't do that." I said, "Okay, chase him then, because that's stupid, But,
Well, he had me so mad I wanted to shoot him.
yeah, he was. What was his name? He's a heck of a pack animal, I'll tell you that.
You guys can continue. I got to figure out the name. I'm going to text someone that would know for sure.
So here, well, there's never a guarantee that they're going to become a guide because we can't just employ everyone that does apprenticeships. We know about within the first week or so that if they're going to make it. So all those students that went through your guide school, how did you pass them or fail them? Or
Well, I evaluated them at the end, We never letting him go because they all paid $2,500, and so I guess that was what they got anyway. And but it's just like any school, I graded them all, and I at the end they would get their grades, and some of them I would say, well, they might guide you if they can go to an outfit that has, vehicles, or something like that, But they're not going to make it because we placed all our students that would want to be placed, and so these outfitters would expect us to be honest about what they could do. But yeah, I evaluated them all, and I would get after them. Tell them, you need to get it together, if you're going to be a guide. This is the way it is. And some of them didn't want to be placed. I remember we had a heart surgeon come there.
His name was Buzz. That was
Buzz,
the mules.
yeah. That's the name, Buzz.
I knew.
Yeah, that's him.
Yep.
Yeah, Buzz. I got a picture of old Buzz and me, put me and Nick putting meat on his back.
Them mules worked for a long time, and if they could have told hunting stories, the amount of hunting stories that they could have told, think how many guides they've been through.
Yeah.
Lots of packing.
Yeah, one of them, I think it was Tyrell. Anyway, he had a client on him, and I was riding behind him, and you're going up where the mine is, riding right along the bank, and it all been washed out pretty much. And he just fell right through. And the client's sitting there, and I'm hollering, get off the mule, get off the mule. He just sits there. I said, get off the mule. Finally, the mule just blew up, went straight up in the air, Tyrell did. The client flew over and fell. The mule come right out of there singing. The guy's looking at me. I said, did you hear me? Oh, I didn't know what you meant. Get off the mule means get off the mule.
These were big mules. These are like just under 16. Buzz was probably pushing close to 16 hands. Big Belgian cross mules.
Yeah.
Big.
We have some pictures of them in
Yeah.
that box. I'd have to dig them out.
How many years would a good mule pack for?
Oh, you could work a good mule 25 years.
Well, I guarantee you what they were packing when I was there, and that's been a while now.
There's people that could think poorly of this, but they were working animals, and at the end of rifle season, they wouldn't have hair on their backs. They'd look like they had mange where the saddles.
Yeah.
Just because you used them. I mean, they didn't get tired. Honestly, you could pull up some of these mountains and just.
Well, Nick was a blessing anyway. That's the one thing I'll say about him, boy.
That's
if
why
I had something down, and I told him where I was, he said I'll be there, and he'd come in and get him.
That's why that whole process runs so good. That's why it's so hard to use stock, because you have to have someone like Nick, and that's their sole job, because it's just too much. Guides don't want to aggravate. You didn't want to aggravate with fooling with them stupid horses, brushing them out after you just got done working all day.
No.
I'll pack it myself on my back.
The only time I ever did any horse hunts was I went up to Theriault. You know where Theriault is? You go up Prospect Creek, and before you get to the Antimony Mine or Crow Creek, there's a road.
Yep.
Well, that road's all gated. And then you could go up there and you could see 300 mule deer in a day, and you see some bucks and the elk too. We took a lot of mule deer bucks out of there, but we was on horses. It was a great hunt. And then I had them panner bags, and so we get a mule deer down. I just bone it all out and everything else, and get them in the panner bags and lead my horse out.
That open country that you hunted, it's got manzanilla brush chest high, and it's so thick you can't hardly glass into it.
Oh, my goodness.
You're talking about that big open section that runs out that long ridge. It has
It goes above the Antimony Mine.
I know the exact spot.
Yeah, we go up Theriault, and you go in through that timber, and that was open timber then, too. Yeah. You see a lot. But you go up there, it was great hunting. Oh, it was a great hunting spot. I'd go on horses then. But then that was the winter time. I'd have to haul them. Of course, I'd go up by myself. I'd take the client and the horses and stuff like that. I'd see a mule deer, and I'd tell them, get off the horses. And I'd hold all the horses, then they'd start shooting. The horses were real good with it. They got any mule deer, I'd usually pack it out on my horse, I walk out. If they got two mule deer, well, then somebody else would walk in, but it's the way it was. But,
yeah, when I had to horse hunt, that's what I would do too. I would take the saddle panniers. And
Yeah.
I'd roll them up and tie them behind my saddle, and
Yeah.
then if we killed, I would just walk out and lead my horse.
Yep. I liked walking anyway.
I got cold too easy, so I
Yeah.
enjoyed walking myself.
Yeah, but that is good. Anyway, back to guide school.
Yeah,
we
you
did-
were about to tell about the heart surgeon. So was he a
Oh.
client or was he a student?
He was a client.
Oh, a client.
He wanted to go to guide school. He was probably one of my best students I ever had. He was an older guy, but he would do anything. And I asked him one time, how come you're doing this? He says, I just wanted the adventure. It's the adventure. He says, and I love it. He's going to go back home and be a surgeon. He said, I just had to get away for a while, and I just thought this would be a great thing to do. Yeah, he was a neat guy. I really liked him. Yeah, we had some good talks. He was probably my age when I was in 50, you know. He's probably my age, but he was a neat guy. He was tough. He'd run right up there and go to work, you know, and some of them kids would stand there and look at it, you know, and, hey, you need to start doing this. You know?
So he never became a guide after that?
No, he didn't want to become a guy. He's a hard servant. Man, he's probably a millionaire.
Three digits.
He just came to the school for the adventure.
For the adventure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he loved it.
That's cool.
And we had 2 or 3 clients that came to guide school just for the adventure. It seems like they did good. We had a lot of good students too. I mean, they really hardcore students, you know. And
Well, you guys run like a pretty tight ship by the sounds of it. It was well organized. The facility was very nice.
yeah,
The facility was pretty. It's what you would think of in your brain when you were going to a northwestern hunting camp. Corrals, the whole log cabin type of deal is.
yeah. There was a lot of horse stuff, and there was a lot of guy stuff, and I got into a lot of interpretive too. We had a guy come there, a guy that we'd go out and everybody would take a bowl and some dressing if they wanted, and we'd go and he'd show them different ground stuff that you could pick and stuff, you know, and thing. That was just a short thing, but just give a little idea of if they got some guides don't guide hunters or fishermen. They're interpretive guides, and what they do is take people out and they show them the environment or the history of the land. They might be in boats or they might be on horses and stuff like this. I went and did an interpretive study with this guy, and we went into the Madison River. And what we were doing is horse impact study and stuff like that. My horse got killed by lightning too, incidentally, on that trip. And the people were just shied away from me because that was after I got hit by lightning myself, you know. And so they looked at me like, "Hey." But anyway, we were in the Madison, and we were doing a lot of environmental stuff. We had this ground cloth that you could put on the ground and put a tent up, and it wouldn't kill the grass. And then you had this here blanket thing that you would lay on the ground, and you would put dirt on it, and then you could build a fire on it. And when it's all done and you cool down, you could throw the ashes away in the thing, and the ground would not be damaged. So it's different stuff like that. And then different ways to keep the stock from ruining trees. Like they talk about that in the Bob Marshall, where people kept tying horses to trees that would kill the trees. And so we was doing this type of stuff, you know, highlining. We would have them hobbled. We'd have a couple hobbled, the rest turned loose.
That's probably the best.
Yeah, that's when my horse got killed he was hobbled. He got killed by lightning. And so anyway, anyway, we did a lot of that, different kind of stuff, how to take care of stuff in the environment. But it was an interpretive type study. There were several people there from different organizations like horse clubs. They might send a representative from one horse club, another representative, and then Yellowstone Park. And we went through pepper spray. You know how effective pepper spray, because Yellowstone Park uses it a lot. You know, and so we went through that. And then camp cooking back and stuff like that. Well, you know, that's the one thing really I got there. There's only me and one other guy that were guides, really. And so we had to do all the camp cooking for 3 days just to show these people how to do camp cooking. Then they started doing it, But it was really interesting. So anyway, through that, I was able to teach interpretive stuff, like how to take care of the stock in the backcountry and not show a lot of people show up. Oh, there's been a lot of horses here, like moving the stock and using the electric fence, for here, but then moving it the next day. So you're not just tearing it up, you're moving them around and stuff like that. So, and that is to
lessen the impact on the environment.
yeah,
Be a better steward of the land.
Yeah. Being a good steward of the land. I mean, we're professional guides, and we should be good stewards of the land, And
Absolutely.
And they can teach us to people as well. There's people, that guy I told you about, that professor from Dillon, Dick Clark. His name was Dick Clark. Remember Dick Clark years ago? Okay. And he also was an outfitter. And he had people come into Yellowstone, and they would pick out their horse. They would show them how to saddle their horse, how to take care of their horse, everything. And then they would go through a long trip through Yellowstone Park. And these people had a lot of money. These people would pay all kinds of money to take care of it. All the guide did was just walk around and make sure they did it right. And they did all the work. And they pay a lot of money to do it. Now that's interpretive guiding, but that's...
Look at Morgan. She's got steam coming out of her ears right now.
And then you got these raft trip guides, and they go along and they'll show them different steps of structure and different things growing on the sides of the hills and the different animals and animal stuff and just, that's what it is. So there's a lot of guiding. There's survival guides that go out and told people how to make it in the backcountry. They go, so that's something else that we were teaching. Covered all that elk, moose, sheep, goats, all that stuff, caribou.
As a guide, if you know a lot of those things in the history of the land that you're guiding in, it just makes you more of a professional guide. I mean, in the client's eyes, more knowledge. You can show them more than just a hunting trip. When they leave, they can leave with some knowledge. We try to do that a good bit.
I had a big old book about this thick, and they all got the same book. Yeah. And it would tell all about elk, when they breed, and how long they stay in estrus. And
I have my book still.
Yeah, okay, you know what I'm talking about. It tells all that stuff, and the goats and the sheep and everything, and how you score elk and how you score deer, and all this stuff was brought up. This is all done in 4 weeks. Yeah. So it's go all the time.
The test at the end was pretty serious, actually. It had me nervous.
And I went and researched all that stuff and had all that stuff made up, all them pages made up and everything else.
Really? You have made that book up?
Yeah.
Really? I got a whole bunch of the copies in my hunting room.
I still got all mine stuff at home, too.
Really? I got to get me a book signed.
And Dutch oven cooking. It was fun. I love guide school, really, and I love archery season. And I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with rifle hunting, but rifle hunting was a little competitive at times. And then we taught client leadership, be able to take the leadership and make sure, but do it in a way that's respectful to the client as well. Taking care of them in the woods, being able to watch them, seeing when they're having problems, and stuff like this, and keep them safe. You go up and you look at this here rock slide that you can walk across, but one of these clients, you're not too sure he may make it across. So you better find a way to get around that rock slide. You see what I mean? Because if you don't want a guy laying down in the middle of a rock slide and you're trying to get him out of the woods and stuff like that. So it's really important. And your clients, you got to realize, can't go like you can go. But you can encourage them. And I've had so many clients tell me, Speed, I can't believe we made it to the top of this mountain. And I'm talking about older guys. Oh, I thought they were older then. They probably ain't as old as I am now, but they were older. And I'd get them all the way to the top of a mountain. I didn't try to run them up there, but I encouraged them. And we'd talk and we'd stop whenever they needed, but when I figured they need to have a rest. and they get to the top and they're just excited. Man, we got clear to the top of this mountain. Anyway, yeah, I love guide school. It was a great experience. I met a lot of really neat people, and like Billy Moles.
How many years did you do the school for?
I think it was 20 plus. I had just quit before Boss Man came on the program. I wish I would have stayed because I would have liked to have been part of that scenario too. but this is what it was.
You might have kicked him out.
I could have learned. I'm just looking back. I could have fast tracked so much better if you would have been there fully. That would have been amazing for me.
Well, I'm just glad to see you here.
Yeah. Well, that interruption, I don't know everybody remember where they're at, but they just finished that blonde bear. They got him.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime bear.
Yeah. And now, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to kick off from the guide school. We got to hear the white bear. Is you okay with telling? You want to tell that?
Yeah, I'll tell it.
It's a perfect timing. We're going to roll right into that. That's
okay. We a friend of mine, Donnie Cooper, and me, we spent a lot of time running dogs together. He came from Susanville, California, when he come up to Orfino, Idaho. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
He
come up from Susanville, and I tell you, when I said before, we talked before, there was only 5 howmen in northern Idaho at the time, and Donnie Cooper was one of them. And so me and him really became friends, and we both worked on the Dvorak Reservoir together, and we ran a lot of bears, and he became an outfitter, and I actually guided for Donnie. It come up, it was late in the season. Me and him took off. My oldest boy never forgets this. Scott was, he liked to sleep in, I don't know if this is part of the story you want to hear, but I'm going to tell you. So I went and I told him, Scott, get up. We're going bear hunting. Donnie had showed up from Orfino. And he goes, okay. And so I went out and got the dogs loaded up in the trucks, and me and Donnie's talking. I come back in. We had some coffee and ate breakfast, and I hollered, Scott, get up. And he said, yeah, I'm coming. Went along another 10, 15 minutes. I walked in. He's sleeping. I said, well, that's it. We took off, left him, and I was pretty fussy about that. I tell people I'm going bear hunting at 5 o'clock. If they didn't show up at 5 o'clock, I was gone. I didn't wait around. That's probably a little strong, but I don't think I would do that nowadays. But in them days, that's the way it worked, And so anyway, we took off. So me and him was hunting, and we talking and laughing, joking around. Pretty late in the season, pretty hard to find any berries right now, stuff like that. So we thought, well, let's go up high, and there'll be mountain ash still, and there'll be maybe some elderberry up there or something like that. So we're going along. All of a sudden, the dogs strike, boom, and they go along. It's around Ponderay Lake, actually. And they struck and off they went, and they made a great big circle out of back towards the lake and come back around and come around treat above the road. So me and Donnie, we got out of the truck, and we both had burned our tags, but you could still run our dogs, And so we walked up the hill, and here's this really dark brown, great big sow, beautiful, beautiful sow, and this white yearling, and this thing was white. Was a white bear. I tell you, it's a white bear. There was no brown, no black, nothing. And it just sat in the tree. You could see its pads underneath were pink. And its nose was pink. I mean, we're looking at it, me and Tony, we're thinking, is this real? And so we thought, maybe we ought to shoot it. And we thought, nah, we get thrown for that, And so we let it go. And we went back and got in the truck, and we drove home, and Scott was mumbling about us when we came around. And Donnie told him, do you know we treat a white bear today? And he says, yeah. He says, hey, we treat a white bear today. We didn't have no smartphones or anything in them days. But we did treat a white bear, and I was hoping.
He wasn't late for another hound.
Yeah, I was wondering. We did hunt that area again, and trying to catch that white bear. I never heard, and it was such a small areas that you would have heard about. I mean, people around in them days, if somebody would have killed a white bear, you'd have heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know if the bear started to age, it turned blonde. I don't know, or something like that. That bear was pure white when we treated it. It wasn't albino because it had a pink nose and a pink patch.
Yeah,
but maybe a boar bear killed it. Maybe somebody killed it and they never said anything. But I'll never forget that bear.
Yeah, very rare to have that
Once in
blonde
a
or
lifetime.
even a white. That's crazy.
You know, nowadays with the smartphones and stuff like that, we'd had a heck of a picture thing to do. But not. Of course, we didn't really care in them days either. We was amazed. I'll tell you, I never forget that sow. Man, she was a good looking sow. I mean, she was. I'd have shot her. But not with that yearling cub. I've never done that ever. I don't never do that.
That's like one of our policies here. We don't do that neither.
No.
Even if it's legal, they're not lactating. We're not into killing families of bears. We consider ourselves decent enough hunters. We can go chase down something else.
You tree a lion, and I'll look at him, and I see it's got boobs on it or something like that, and you can tell. Now,
You got to keep the nursery flocks up if you want to keep having fun.
in fact, we never intentionally ever killed a female lion. I mean, we always killed, and actually I honestly was really proud of how I could read a boar bear from a female. Female, she'd have a kind of a pointed nose and smaller head compared to the body. And big old boar's got a big old head, and and stuff like that. I mean, you could read them. And the same thing with a tom lion. I remember a guy, Glenn Smith, and I was up there hunting, and he says, "Hey, I got I got a lion tree, Speed. Would you mind if your client would want to shoot it?" And I was ready to get rid of it, lion season anyway. And so I said, "Yeah, okay, we'll go." "Yeah, it's a nice tom." So I walked up to the tree, and I looked up there, and I said, it's a female. He says, No, Speed, that's a nice tom. I said, "That's a female." He says, No. So I asked the client, "You want to shoot it?" "It's a female." I said, "It's a nice female, but it's a female." And he said, "Yeah, let him shoot it because I want to prove you're wrong." I said, "Okay." So we shot the lion. It was a female. So anyway, he never questioned me again about that. But anyway.
Did you ever get to hunt with Dale Cameron?
I knew Dale Cameron really well, but I never hunted with him. He used to have a shop with hunting supplies and stuff like that. And me and Jerry Melson stopped there one time, the first time I met him, and walked in there. And he hunted down in Orfino, Idaho quite a bit, the same area as I did, but he didn't hunt with the same guys I did. But anyway, I went in there and I bought one of them lights, with the cord and
The night
the
light?
bell. Yeah. Not a night light. It was something else.
Starbright?
No.
Those are the only older ones I know.
Anyway, I got it still at home. It's a really good light. It still works.
Wick?
Yeah, I think so. Mine might have been a wick light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I still got it at home, like I say. But so I bought that from him, and because I still did a lot of coon hunting. Every summer I go away back to South Dakota. And everybody thought I was crazy. I'd drive all the way back to South Dakota. Well, I had a Nissan pickup, got about 30 miles a gallon. Gas was a couple bucks a gallon, maybe $1.50, I don't know. And I'd drive back there, and I would stay at Steve Freer's place. Me and him were good friends, and we'd stay there and hunt our dogs. And, I was eating there and staying there. And then I'd get all done. We'd tree 10, 15 coon a night. I'd be there for 10 days and go back home. All my young dogs, I'd take all my young pups and stuff. They was all running and treeing by the time I got back. And everybody said, "Well, we go all the way to South Dakota." "What do you mean? How can you train a pup any less money than that cost?"
Yeah.
It was great. Nobody wanted to go with me. I went by myself.
Yeah, people don't realize the oil economy really affects the hound hunting. Spend a lot of time in the pickup running them hounds around.
Yep. George Duncan used to tell me. George Duncan's a heck of a houndman from Orfino, Idaho. Outfitter for years. Good friend of mine. He's also a Marine. And anyway, about the same age as I am. And him and me and Donnie Cooper, we hunted together a lot. But he told me, if you ever want to buy a dog from back east, make sure that dog runs coon. Because if that dog can locate coon, it can run anything. And he's talking about bobcats too.
Yeah.
And I agree with him.
Yeah, this Northwest, you have to have a locating dog.
Oh, yeah.
Did you do any hound stuff in the school? Like teaching any of that?
We talked about it,
Okay.
but no, I didn't do any hound hunting type things, but we talked about it.
So that I credit all my map and compass reading to hound hunting. The old beeper systems, the wildlife and the Johnson stuff.
Yeah.
Because you always had to do compass reading and then get down on a map and orientate the map and draw a
Orientate the
line
map.
and then listen to them beeps and watch the actuator and judge how far you thought it was, or maybe because of the canyons, read the topography. So you constantly fool with that. So I could see where you could have manipulated that into the curriculum real easy with
Yeah. We when I first started, there wasn't any of that. There wasn't even shotgun collars. And I remember we would start a bear, and we'd listen to the race, and then one guy'd go on this road, and one guy'd go on this road, and we didn't even have walkie-talkies and anything. And we'd run along until we find the dogs. And a lot of times, I'd try to keep up with the dogs on foot, but a lot of times it didn't work out. But anyway, and one of us would find the dogs treed. Well, then they would go into the tree and wait.
Yep.
And sit at the tree. And then the other guys would pretty soon come up. They know which way you went. They'd come to you, and then, and there it was. That was the old days. I tell you, we had really good bear dogs, though. And if a bear, and the bears we were running on the dumps, they would stop and bay hard, and them dogs would be all over it. So you didn't have them running bears that came later on,
Yeah.
And so you could actually follow them on the road system a lot of times.
We've turned this into a hound hunting podcast.
Oh, I know. I
since you
figured that
left.
was going to happen.
It's easy to do.
Training dogs and training guides.
We've had we had a couple girls came to our guide school, and it worked out fine. And I think one gal we have, I don't even remember her name, but tougher than most of the male students, But they come there for more about the pack and the horse thing. I was watching there's a gal called Oakley, and she's up in Alaska. It's Oakley's veterinary thing. Her one daughter went to guide school
Okay.
up there in Canada. But I know it had a lot to do with the horses and stuff. You watch her, you would think that she is an environmentalist because she just loves these animals that she works on. But yet they hunt. She loves the animals, but at the same time she understands what hunting's about too. So that's important.
It's hard to explain to some people that you love the animals so much that you go and kill a couple of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. If I thought I was hurting an area, a mountain lions or bears, I wouldn't hunt it again. I'd back out of it,
Yeah.
And same thing with elk, We used to have so many mule deer, and we don't have that number anymore.
My opinion on it is mule deer are dumb, and you get too many people hunting an area, and they're not clever enough to get away. You get a couple good hunters in a canyon, and they can work some mule deer bucks over.
Yeah, I gotta not agree with that part, but I don't think they're dumb, but they rely on their eyesight, and they'll lay right in their bed and let you walk right by them,
Yeah.
and just watch you. Where the whitetail, they go nuts. I mean, if you just crack a limb, they're moving.
Do you think a lot of the historic fires growing over and getting pretty heavily brushed up, like the vegetation too old, do you think that's hurt our mule deer population?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I mean, you can look up on the mountain right across from us, and I know from me hunting it as a kid, there's so much more timber up there, it's ridiculous. Like, things can disappear up there now in a couple of those rolls. And in 2004 and 5, 6, it was like wide open.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it is. The high mountain animal which relies on their eyesight. And that stot that they got that they bounce like this,
yeah.
that is really a big tool for them. Getting in that steep, rocky terrain, they got them porous soles. They can walk on the rocks like sheep.
Yeah.
That's what they need. They start putting them in the timber whitetail country. Yeah, they are dumb.
Yeah, they lose that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about stewards of the land and that, and conservation. I'm sitting here, a whole life of teaching other conservationists, other stewards of the land, and then doing it yourself. You've been leading by example. That's pretty honorable.
Yeah, we used to have a really great elk herd right here. We still got a good elk herd. I'm not knocking that. But we used to have an enormous amount of elk. I wouldn't want to see all the mountain lions killed or all the bears killed. But now we have the mountain lions, the bears, and the wolves, and the coyotes, and the bobcats. And you got so many predators. A mountain lion, he's got 100 to 300 yards where he can run real quick and he's done. His lungs ain't big enough to do it. Safety factor for animals. So he's got to sneak real close. A wolf can run them until they can't even move. And especially if they're in snow and they've been proven to where one wolf will keep running in the tracks of the moose, and then they'll change, and they keep changing, and they keep changing, keep changing. And they catch up with moose as almost down as it is.
Same as a hound. Anything that's breaking a trail in deep snow for a hound, they overpower that animal almost immediately.
Yeah. So when they let them plant all them wolves from Canada, that was and here they had built this beautiful elk herd up and this mule deer herd up and whitetail herd and all that stuff, and then they come in, and it caused us some problems. It caused us numbers in animals.
We have that open country, like you said, then the wolves could work that, and now you have all that heavy timber. So what the wolves weren't working on, the heavy lion population was working on the rest, so they were just getting ate up.
Yep.
And then throw a bunch of hunters into the situation in the fall.
And the bears.
Perfect storm.
Down in Idaho, when I first started hunting hounds years ago, I cannot remember the name of the guy, but he was a biologist, and he also worked for the Fish and Game. He also was a houndman. And they had an area there that the calf crop recovery was only 10%. So they thought that possibly it could be by bears. And so this guy went in and checked it with his hound, and the numbers of bears was very, very high. And so he went ahead and they opened up the season year round. I remember that I was running a hound, and it was up next to Selway. They opened that area up year round for 2 bears, and Howman could run it, of course. And you know how Howman will hit an area and they'll take out big boars. Ethical houndmen, they don't kill small bears. 10 years later, with that kind of hunting with the hounds, they had a 70% calf recovery. So that's the proof right there that the bears were causing the loss, because they'll come in. They have had videos of the bears coming in as the cow's having a calf, a bear's coming up and taking the calf away from the cow. That's why they need to have a bear season with dogs in the whole state of Montana, not just that area down there.
Yeah, it congregates too many houndsmen in an area, truthfully, right. And just you could spread us all back out, and then which there's no confrontation now, but it would just ease up the amount of human like there's just too much maybe.
Well, look at all the area back here that's got no roads in it.
Yeah.
How many houndmen are going to go over there after the bears?
Not many. So you would always have places, holes in the map that bears could get away.
I went and I joined the Montana Houndsman Association. In fact, I was one of the guys that when they started it, they called me to come over. It was over by a place called Judith Gap. And anyway, I went up there, and
Seth knows that.
And we had a meeting, and we started the Montana Houndsman Association. Well, then we went and petitioned the legislature to give us a hound season, even if it wasn't a kill season, where we could train our dogs and run problem bears and keep them out of the low grounds, out around houses and stuff like that. But we was wanting a kill season eventually, but we was pushing for that. And then politicians, they go, oh, this is a good idea. Yeah. And then they go in and vote against you. I was really irritated about that. But I did that for 2 years or 3 years, something like that, go in there and talk to them guys. And finally, I didn't do it anymore. But also, during that time, they had a big meeting up here at Thompson Lake. And I went up there, and they had a bunch of houndmen from Libby and Kalispell and all over the place. And I'm really want us to get a hound season. And they had the biologist for this area there. And I was the only houndman that wanted a bear season. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was up there at that meeting, and I was trying to, I kept telling why we should have a bear season. All these other guys, so one of them come up to me and he said to me, Speed, we don't need a bear season. We already run them. I said, what is your problem? He says, well, if we get a bear season, too many houndmen will move in. I said, are you kidding me? I said, I couldn't believe it. Here you want to try to get a bear season so us houndmen can run more bears and do it legally, and you don't want to do it. So we lost it. And that's the one reason that biologist says, well, you guys can't even agree. What I see is you don't want a bear season with dogs. It goes right out the window. But now you guys have one. And I'm glad of that. But I'm talking about 1979, 1980.
Well, we got enough time in. We can just end it right there. We're gonna get to look at a blonde bear here in a little bit. But we got to end it on I got one more short story because of bear season and everything going on. You got to tell the knife. And what it caused everybody to do.
Well, it was years ago when I was young and dumb, and I was my dogs were baying this bear up and going along the road, and I'm running alongside him, and I didn't have my rifle and I didn't thing like that, and I slipped and slid down the hill and landed right next to the bear. And the bear was bayed up with the dogs. It wasn't a big bear, and then the bear was bayed up with the dogs, and I had one of these kind of long tail knife in a thing. I just pulled it out and stuck him right in the throat. He took off down the hill. The dogs after him, and he got down there and he died. And I'm sitting there shaking. I'll be truthful about it. I was shaking, and I couldn't believe that this happened. And I'm hollering up the hill, telling him, "Give me a gun," And so I went down there, and the bear was dead. It had bled out. And so the story, everybody had to tell the story. And I remember this houndman from Washington come over, and he had this great big knife. He says, Speed, I'm going to kill a bear with a knife like you did. I said, that would be the stupidest thing you ever tried.
That's the greatest.
So anyway.
All right, folks. Till next time.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.